In an Arctic cave, a creature encased in ice is discovered. Assuming it's a bear, scientists prepare the cargo for transportation. A helicopter carries the valuable find across the endless Arctic expanses, flying over mountains and the rugged snowy desert. One of the scientists, the young anthropologist Shaport, returns to the laboratory to examine the new research subject. The station crew makes fun of the guy's smell and lifestyle, which resemble the Eskimos he is studying more than a modern scientist. In the hallway, Sheport meets Mr. Whitman, who came from Houston to study the discovery. He compares it to another find made by a Russian expedition, a mammoth 400,000 years old that is exceptionally well preserved. Its cells are being used to attempt to recreate a living creature by crossbreeding mammoth DNA with elephant DNA. X-rays don't show clearly what's hidden beneath the ice, and a laser begins to cut away the excess ice. Another scientist, Maynard, speculates that it's not a bear, but a human inside. The icy tomb becomes thinner, revealing a hand and then the fully preserved body of an ancient human. Sheport analyzes the facial features from the teeth and concludes that they are dealing with an ancient hunter, a Neanderthal. Sheport protests against the suggestion from Dr. Brady and other scientists to dissect the body for further analysis. The next step is planned to be a full thawing. The anthropologist argues that they need to thoroughly investigate the discovery site, as there may be other people there, or even an entire village. However, the site developer assures them that they found everything there was, and the ice can be gravity 1,000 kilometers. In that time, the Neanderthal has already been brought up to a temperature above freezing. Doctors start procedures and remove the fur coat, finding the ancient hunter's personal belongings, amulets, and feathered ornaments. The blood transfusion procedure begins and goes smoothly. At the moment when the medics take a skin sample, the instruments suddenly show unusual activity. Many substances are found in the human body that can act as cryoprotectants. One of them is an anti-freeze compound that prevents crystallization and is found in the flowers, primroses. Mammoths, which were previously mentioned by scientists, also fed on them. Scientists monitor brain activity, and Dr. Brady and the medical team quickly begin the process of resuscitation to initiate the patient's breathing and heart. The ancient human wakes up, roars, and begins to resist the procedures. Doctors try to simultaneously restrain the patient and avoid harming him. Sheport then removes his medical mask and suit to show the Neanderthal a human face. This calms and distracts him, allowing sedatives to be administered. Scientists discuss the substance found in the savage's body. This discovery is sure to win them a Nobel Prize. It can significantly extend human lifespan and freeze terminally ill patients until a cure is found. But Sheport rebuffs his colleagues, who are getting carried away with their dreams. The team argues that if scientists could have extended Einstein's life, he would have definitely advanced his theories, pushing science forward. Sheport objects, pointing out that there were other people with their theories that led to wars or horrendous crimes against humanity. Furthermore, this procedure will only be available to the wealthiest individuals, exacerbating inequality and provoking conflicts. Dr. Brady responds that such a process is already underway, and progress cannot be stopped. The anthropologist is upset by the impersonal treatment of the discovered human, seeing him only as a source of biomaterial. If they treat him as a human, they can better understand themselves. But if they let the Neanderthal wake up, the medics won't be able to study him to find a way to freeze and thaw people. Sheport insists that the savage cannot be kept in a state of sleep all the time, so it is necessary to create conditions for his containment close to his natural habitat. The man from the past wakes up amid rocks and grass. He finds berries and squeezes juice from them. There are animals nearby as well. The Neanderthal starts a fire, crafts tools, and then goes hunting, trapping a wild boar. One day, he discovers something unusual at the bottom of the pond, a hose with a gilded nozzle. The ancient man doesn't understand what it is and pulls the hose, following it like a guiding thread, uncovering a hidden pipe and valves beneath the grass, eventually reaching a door. He sees people for the first time after thousands of years in the ice. This disturbs him, so he climbs high on the structures that control the climate and life inside the enclosure. Despite Sheport's protests, they put the savage to sleep using a tranquilizer gun before he can hurt himself in an emotional outburst. The Neanderthal is taken away by Dr. Brady's team for studying the body's chemical processes while he sleeps. Sheport doesn't want to let go of the ancient man and claims he needs more time. Later, Brady and Sheport talk in a bar, where the guy offers to buy her a drink. He shows her a film about indigenous people. They walk on hot coals without burning their feet and pierce their skin with long needles, but no blood flows. The guy suggests that human capabilities are not fully explored, and the internal resources of our bodies may be much greater than we think. What if the body of the Iceman naturally produced a substance that prevents cell damage? And the key is to figure out what rituals or actions he used to achieve this result. This hypothesis is worth testing, and Sheport finally goes to meet the ancient hunter. warning the others not to use any weapons. The savage threatens and demonstrates his strength with shouts and jumps, similar to a monkey. Nevertheless, he allows the man to approach very closely. Sheport keeps his hands visible and carefully looks into the Neanderthal's eyes. But the guy knows what he's doing and demands that everyone stays out of his way. The hunter places a stone nearby and examines the scientist's teeth and hands. He is interested in the boots and pants, then checks the floor of his guest. The Neanderthal performs a ritual of introduction, beats his chest, and shouts his name. The name sounds most like Charlie, and he tries his best to pronounce Sheport's name as well. The scientist points to a drawing of scars on the savage's chest. It's a bird. Charlie also examines the scientist's chest and removes a symbol of another god, a cross. He tries to say something, but Sheport can't understand the ancient man yet. In the evening, all the scientists are in the break room, but many continue to discuss their work. While Sheport wants to find a suitable linguist to decipher Charlie's language, the medics discuss the difficulty of studying the precious substance for freezing. It evaporates as soon as it is extracted from the body. A professor, an expert in linguistics, arrives and is ready to observe the savage. Sheport continues to interact directly with Charlie. The Neanderthal unbuttons 2 buttons from the new friend's shirt and shows hospitality by offering the scientist a taste of his dinner, a bone. In the evening by the campfire, out of boredom, Sheport starts humming a song which Charlie really likes, and he asks him not to stop. They end the day by singing and laughing together, but Charlie continues to be examined by the medics. He goes back to the operating table, and while he's lying there, Sheport makes a puncture. Then they lower his body temperature to regenerate the cryopreservative in his blood, but this time, nothing comes out. Charlie complains of chest pain after the procedure and suspects Sheport of causing him harm. Suddenly, he rushes to the guy and thrusts a spear into his hands. It seems that Charlie is very unhappy with his situation, and he sees no reason to live. The anthropologist comes to Dr. Brady and says that their interference is greatly interfering with his research. He persuades the girl to enter the enclosure with him to change Charlie's emotional state. The girl, understandably, is concerned for her well-being, but they manage to understand each other despite their differences and approaches. Charlie draws a bird in the sand, and when Dr. Brady decides to enter the enclosure under Sheport's supervision, he immediately complains about the smell. Contact is made, and Charlie offers the girl his lunch. The savage sniffs and touches the woman, but when it comes to a more detailed examination, Sheport says that she is his property, and Charlie cannot have her. The men compete in yelling loudly and giving threatening looks. Afterward, the savage brings the most valuable thing he has, the gilded tip of the hose that he found, to exchange for the girl. But the anthropologist still refuses the disappointed Neanderthal. Charlie calms down and accepts the new guest. He draws a woman and 2 children on the ground, as if telling them about his family. He shows how the children ran and played. He asks the scientists where they might be. In another dialogue, a helicopter interrupts, flying directly over the enclosure. The savage hears and sees it through the glass. The inexplicable phenomenon scares and worries him. Charlie rushes to chase the giant metal bird, shouting the word "bird." Nothing else interests him, and the scientists have to leave the enclosure. Sheport seeks help from the local Eskimos, whom he finds engaged in a ritual dance and chanting. He tries to find out from them the words Charlie uses and his behavior during the helicopter incident. It turns out that the Eskimos have a legend about the bird, a messenger of the gods who will carry you to the heavens. But if you have sinned in your life, you will be judged for your transgressions. Charlie saw the bird as his god and tried to offer himself to the deity in exchange for the return of the animals and his family. Now, the helicopter is his god. Charlie performs various rituals continuously for 24 hours to summon the bird. He does not communicate with the scientists, and instead watches from his hiding place as Sheport opens the door to exit the enclosure. He tries to mimic Sheport's actions with the buttons, and he succeeds. While the scientists are away, the Neanderthal, holding a wooden spear, sneaks into the observation room, hides from people, and runs through the corridors. He becomes frightened by a mirror hanging on the wall, smashes it, and the shard injures his hand. Then he discovers animals in cages, sliding glass doors, a printer, and an elevator. Eventually, he enters a laboratory where he smashes glass flasks filled with acid. Maynard and his assistant enter the same room but don't see the savage, so they leave after turning off the lights. Charlie finds himself in darkness and notices light and warmth from a window on the roof. He tries to break the window to escape, and this noise attracts Maynard's attention. The savage continues his journey unarmed when a terrifying alarm signal is activated. He runs through communication tunnels and ends up on the street, where he encounters the coveted helicopter, which is preparing to land on the landing pad. Charlie attempts to grab it but receives blows to the head from the skids and falls unconscious. He is quickly lifted and taken to safety. Charlie's bones and organs are fortunately undamaged, unlike the injured Maynard. Shepard's superiors refuse to attribute the incident to an unfortunate accident, and Mr. Whitman puts an end to the dangerous experiment. Charlie's future is predetermined. He cannot live among humans. Shiport tries to protect his child, but his voice no longer carries any weight. Charlie will be prepared for transport away from the station. However, the anthropologist asks Brady for help in finishing what they started and allowing Charlie the chance to finally reach his god, the helicopter. He will not be able to live among people. Shiport brings a warm coat and asks his colleagues to open the doors to the enclosure to take the Neanderthal outside. They set off together into the Arctic expanses. For the first time in a long while, Charlie looks happy. All available equipment, snowmobiles, and a helicopter are sent from the station in pursuit of the escapees. They quickly find the men's tracks. The men continue their journey, and Charlie leads the anthropologists forward despite the movement of icebergs and falling ice blocks. A crevasse separates the men from each other, but Charlie doesn't turn back and keeps moving. His helicopter is the first one they locate. In a state of utter ecstasy, the savage reaches out his arms towards his god and grabs onto the helicopter's skids, soaring into the icy Arctic air. The man who emerged from the icy tomb, having lost everything, meets his end in the sky with a magnificent divine bird.